It happens at the stage set collapse. Rising, streetcar, 4 hours in the office or the factory. Meal, streetcar, 4 hours of work. Meal, sleep, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, according to the same rhythm. This path is easily followed most of the time. But one day, the why arises and everything begins in that weariness tinged with amazement.
Hello?
Why aren't you at work today?
My life has no meaning. There is no point.
Well, you could either commit suicide because you have no meaning in life, or you could create your own meaning for your own life.
Okay.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Are you depressed?
My life has no meaning.
Well, in order to find meaning in your life, you have to think about the quantity of experiences. YOLO!
People believe in God. I feel like God isn't doing it. I must kill myself and I become God. That's such an obscure idea. I am God. I kill myself.
In order to find the meaning of life, you have to revolt, which means to resist against suicide and find your own true purpose in life.
The way to find a meaning of life is to be out of the ordinary, and the best way to get this diversity is through art.
I can't find the meaning of life.
Yeah, I can't either, which is why I wrote this book, The Myth of Sisyphus. For the longest time, I thought my life had no meaning after my dad died in World War I. So I wrote this book to help process my thoughts. I even won the Nobel Peace Prize for some of my other literature when I was 44. I'm a French philosopher and I myself believe in the absurd.
Can the myth of Sisyphus help me find meaning?
Well, it's not easy, but this book can provide clarity towards finding your own meaning.
Okay, thanks a lot, Camus.
Anytime.
The absurd man wakes up the next day feeling optimistic because he knows, as Albert Camus says, he must give the void its colors.
Hey, my name is Hannah Cowell, and I'm going to be talking about the book The Myth of Sisyphus, written by Albert Camus. This book was both enlightening, inspiring, and eye-opening to the reader because it allows you to go past the suicidal thoughts and go towards finding your own meaning of life. And I found it really interesting because it was the author's complex ideas and thoughts, and he had a really informal tone throughout the entire novel because he was just simply stating what he thought about suicide and about finding your own purpose and journey through life. But almost as it became so complex in the middle, towards the end, there was kind of a bulb went off in my head, and it was enlightening to realize that you can find your own true purpose and meaning of life. I'm going to be talking about the concept of revolt as I did in the past video. And so I pulled a quote from this novel and it states, "Live without appeal. The revolt is the certainty of a crushing fate within the resigning acceptance." And so living without appeal means that you as an individual can go past the absurd and realize there's something out there bigger for you and that you can find your own meaning and purpose. And I think that's what Camus was trying to describe throughout the novel. He talked a lot about suicide and it was very dark towards the beginning, but towards the end there was a really big tone shift and enlightened the readers as he realized you can move past these suicidal thoughts, you can move past society's intentions for you, and you can find your own true purpose and meaning within life, and you can revolt against the absurd. Albert Camus also had a lot of ethos within this novel, as well as pathos and logos. But an example of ethos is because he often quoted philosophical ideas from other people, and this established his own ethos within the novel. So overall, I recommend this book, and I would read it again because although it is complex and hard to read in the beginning, it does create a mass enlightenment within you, and you're able to look at the world in a whole new light.
So The Myth of Sisyphus is a really existential book. It can be really hard to understand at first, but once you gain an understanding of the author's argument and like what he's trying to say, it's really interesting. So one of my favorite quotes from the book says, "The return to consciousness and escape from everyday sleep represent the first steps of absurd freedom. But it is existential preaching that is alluded to, and with it that spiritual leap which basically escapes consciousness. But they knew that freedom which consists in not feeling responsible. Death too has petitioned hands which, while crushing, also liberate." So the return of consciousness is when someone wakes up from the mechanical life and realizes that they don't have a meaning to their life. So then they have to go on a journey and take that spiritual leap to be able to find the meaning in their life. And then that last line that says, "Death to his patrician hands, which while crushing also liberate," means that though death is like restrictive and obviously it's life ending, it can also free you from, or the idea of it can free you from the meaningless and give you meaning.
My name is Olivia, and throughout the whole book, the quote that stood out to me the most was at the very beginning, and it happens that the stage set collapsed, rising streetcar, 4 hours in the office or the factory, meal, streetcar, 4 hours of work, meal, sleep, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, according to the same rhythm. So this quote stood out the most to me because it really relates to my everyday life, and I bet a lot of other people's, just because it feels like we're in such a routine that we just like repeat the same thing every single day. So then following that, Camus says, "But one day the why arises and everything begins in that weariness tinged with amazement." So that relates to us too, because sometimes we just question like, why are we repeating the same thing over and over again?
I agree with his ideas of trying to find your own meaning in life, but for the reader or someone who's struggling, I think it's kind of hard for someone to do that, especially since like if they're struggling, like they won't be able to interpret it. So I kind of agree with its ideas that you have to interpret and like find your own meaning. And like I felt like the reader could understand it a lot better than they could, because philosophy is like pretty repetitive, and like the whole like message of the book is just like find your meaning, and he just provided a bunch of examples and analogies with that. So yeah, I don't know. That's it. And I think he wrote this book and like was easier to understand because he's been in that situation as like, I feel like he's writing about himself, like as the absurd man, because he struggled with not being able to find meaning in a meaningless world. So I thought it was interesting that he kind of like that book, his book, kind of reflected off his own ideas and his beliefs.
So philosophy is something that I'm very interested in, so I was really excited to read this book because it is the existentialist philosophical idea. I thought it was kind of difficult to read and understand because it is a bit more complex than what I'm used to, and it's kind of like older writing and it's been translated from French. Something I really enjoyed is that I felt like Camus was kind of having a conversation with himself in a way, and it kind of reminds me of myself and like the way I think, because he would say something and then he'd like add something else, and it was like really silly, and there's like some really silly sentences in there, like but at the same time nothing interests him more than himself. I just thought that was funny. But on that same page, something that I thought could be like, it's like, what's the word whenever it like sticks with you? Remnant? I don't know what the word is, but there at least can be recognized the thoughtless man, and he continues to hasten towards some hope or another. And so I feel like that can be like, although you don't have any thoughts about anything and you're looking for something, you can still find your way in looking towards hope. So the book is quite interesting, and it provides an insight on Camus's opinions regarding the meaning of life. It also allows for you to explore the different meanings and how those meanings apply to your own and other people's lives. It also explores like the different ways in which a person is able to find that meaning in life. For example, like art, it allows for you to see the perspective of another person, and that person has a different meaning to their life, and this allows you to explore the perspectives of other people and relate them to your own life and meaning. You can also relate it to more recent times. For example, when COVID hit and quarantine was mandated, many people started losing that mechanical life that they were used to, and this just caused for their mental health to decline, and that's why suicide rates increased. And I would also just recommend this book to everyone because it's interesting.